This is the Brett Mason Show. Hey, hey, hey! My name is Brett, this is my show. This is my show.
Hello there, welcome to another edition of the Brett Mason Show, a podcast where I talk about whatever's on my mind and your suggestion for guests. I actually do have several guests lined up. We just haven't been able to have them on the show because, a couple of them were on vacation. Then I actually went on vacation with my mom for a couple of days, and then I also am going to UAB with my mom for a couple of days. But the middle part of this week, we'll start doing some interviews and hopefully getting guests on, because that is the direction I want to take with the show. So that being said, if you think you'd be a good guest for the show, whether because you're interesting, fascinating, controversial, or you have a cause that you would like to share the word about, then let me know. You can just shoot me a message on Facebook. If you're not getting to this podcast from my Facebook page, it's easy to find. Just look for Brett Mason on Facebook, BRETTMASON. It's facebook.com/BrettMason69 is the actual address. And we'll talk about having you on, or whoever it is. We'll see if we can make that work. Want to thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you so much for everybody that shares it on Facebook and Twitter. I appreciate that. You can now download our app from the Android marketplace. Yep, we got an app. You'll never miss a show. It updates automatically. And there's some cool features on there. When we ever do a live show, and we'll be doing some live shows, you'll be able to get those live streamed right to the app on your phone, and you'll be able to text and communicate and chat back and forth with us through the app. So that's going to be kind of cool. You can also subscribe to the podcast. This means, it'll automatically get downloaded to whatever podcast software you use or whatever app is on your phone. Whether you be an Android user or an iPhone user, we're available on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn, and iHeart. You can get us on all of those. All those options are on the website. If you're listening to this from a web page, from my actual web page, just look down below the player down there, and you'll see the appropriate links to all those things, including the app. If you're not on the website, go find it, Brett-Mason.com or Brett, BRETT-Mason.com. Click on any podcast page. You can snag those links. I'm going to talk about bullying today. I see a lot of things with bullying. It's become a huge deal. It's become more and more of a deal. It really makes me wonder. I really wish I knew if bullying is worse today than it was when I was in school. I wonder if it was. I'll tell you what I suspect. I suspect that it isn't worse. I just suspect that it takes different forms now, or it can be much more public. Everything is public now. I'll give you an example. When I was in school, let's say I was going from science class to math class, and I ran into a bully. Me and the few people standing around witnessed it. I could just try to scoot out of it and be about my way, and that'd be it. And now it becomes very public with Snapchat, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and all of those many things. A bullying incident or a person bullying someone else can really go worldwide. And I think that's the difference. I don't think the bullies are any worse. I don't think they're any more harsh. But I think the spreading of the bullying incident gets seen by more people, which, of course, if you're the person being bullied, magnifies it in your mind and makes it worse. Back in the old days, they would talk about, if some kid bullies you or picks on you or whatever, you stand up to them and you punch them, and that'll straighten them down. You can't do that in today's society because we live in a politically correct world where boys can't even tussle and wrestle on the playground anymore. You can't hug your teacher. You can't hug a friend in class. I mean, it's just downright ridiculous anymore. So, all the things of the olden days are out. You can't discipline kids, and I'm not saying I'm for or against paddling or whipping or using belts or switches. I know it was done to me. Some of it was deserved. Some of it was not deserved. Some of it was an appropriate level, and quite honestly, some of it was an inappropriate level. And that's just the way it was. I'll just be honest about it. I survived it. I know people who experienced it worse than me survived it, but were changed, and I was changed. I was changed. I'm a different person now than I would have been if I hadn't experienced discipline in the way that I did. But I think I do think I have a, not unique, but I do think that I know enough about bullying that I can speak on it. And this would be something I've never really talked about. I think I've talked about this to one person ever. So what I'm about to share with you is something that is, I can't call it a secret because when the bullying happened at school, there were other people around, so they know that it happened. But it probably seemed very trivial to them. It probably seemed very nondescript and like everyday school stuff to them, when at times it was quite literally devastating to me. And so I lived that, and I know what it's like to feel shame. I know what it's like to feel subhuman. I know what it's like to feel humiliated. And I know what it's like for your mind to go to a dark place too. So I think that I am capable of speaking on some of these things. For the most part, I wasn't really bullied too bad in school. I wasn't, definitely not to the point that every day was a dread for me, or I went into deep, dark depression for really long periods of time I'm talking about over the span of years, to where it was just a constant thing. For the most part, I had good friends in school, some of them. I never was a person, and I still am not that kind of person to this day who has a lot of friends. I just never have cared for my circle to be too large. In other words, I differentiate between friends and acquaintances. I've always had a lot of acquaintances, but people I considered friends were very few. And I think through my high school years, I probably maintained a circle of what I would call friends, good friends, to around 2 or 3 at all times. And that'd be about the max. And so everybody else was just acquaintances, or, some people I enjoyed being around occasionally or whatever. And that has remained on into my adult years. Probably since I became an adult, whatever that is, whether it's actual years or it's an age or whatever, but I don't know, my 20s or whatever. As far as really good friends, I think I've had a few. I think I've probably, maybe in the 5 range. And what's unfortunate about that is, a couple of them have died young for the most part, so I lost them. I have another really good set of friends. A couple, they're married. They'll be friends forever. They always have been. We don't see each other that much, but when you have good friends, when you can pick right up where you left off. This is the way it is. And they're those kind of people. I had a friend that was like a sister to me. That went to hell. I don't know what happened to that. I won't say that's traumatic to me, but it's bothered me. It's really bothered me because that person was a very big part of my life, and seemed to have traded me in for much less loyal and much less caring people, just to be quite honest with you. But whatever. So my circle of friends has always been small. So, but what I have had is friends that appreciated me enough, my intelligence, my sense of humor, my loyalty. They appreciated all those things enough and reinforced it enough that it allowed me to overcome bullying, or to put the bullying I experienced off to one side. And then the same also applied, I guess, for the most part, to my home life with my parents. I guess maybe you could argue church has had something to do with it. I really don't know. When I was thinking about doing this podcast, I tried to think about, do I really think anything in church directly contributed to my I don't even know if I'd call it strength, but my ability to not let bullying go downhill to a bad place. And I don't think so, but I wouldn't completely rule it out. I can't think of anything specific. But so I had this guy. There was this guy. He was on the football team, and he was the typical, I guess, attractive guy. He was a funny guy. He was an outgoing guy. That's what makes it so sad. Like you see, he didn't need to bully me. He didn't need to. A lot of people will tear other people down to try to lift themselves up. That's one of the things, looking back on it, that puzzles me about this guy, because he didn't need to do that. He was popular. He was well liked. He didn't have problems in any of those areas. So why he felt the need to I don't know, make me feel like something less than human. Still baffles me to this day. Why anybody does it, I don't understand, but especially people like that. So there was a path. I was in band in all my days of school, and I don't think you were, there's the joke about being the band geek or the band nerd. I don't think for the most part people in band were necessarily looked down a lot. I had a casual joke about it, but maybe it's just because of the group of people I ran with. It didn't seem super nerdy to me. It wasn't like being a jock. It wasn't like being on the football team, but it wasn't, like having pocket protectors and protractors and, doing calculus equations nerdy all day either. So I guess maybe it fell somewhere in between. But there were some really cool people in band, and so maybe that helped. Or during my years there were. But there was a path I had to take from the band room, from that class, I had to go down across a stretch of grass, I guess, onto a sidewalk, all the way down the sidewalk to the 2-story section of our school, which is very small at the time. That isn't where the high school is now. And I had a class up on the second floor. It was a history class. So at that particular time of day, I don't know how long this went on. It seems like forever, but it may have only been a few weeks. It seems like I would nearly almost always run into this guy, and he would have several people with him or whatever on this section of sidewalk. And he called me a name that I'm not even going to say now. And look, I've been an overweight person for the majority of my life. And honestly, I would say most slang or most overweight stuff people could say never bothered me that much. I mean, I didn't like being overweight. I didn't like being made fun of, but it didn't cut me. You know what I'm saying? It just didn't cut into me and feel like it robbed me of my soul. It was just annoying for the most part, or it'd make me mad sometimes, or it'd make me sad sometimes. But it wasn't that big a deal. Fat ass, tub of lard, I was called sometimes. Fatty, or fatso maybe. I don't know. Honestly, I wasn't called that stuff that much. I was called it though. I think more than just being called names. I probably was behind my back a lot. Let me change that. Behind my back, I was probably called that a lot. To my face, it didn't happen that much. Maybe because I was so large, even though my size was not indicative of my physical prowess. I wasn't the get in and mix it up kind of guy, so nobody had to worry about that. But that might have contributed to it. Because, I was well over 6 foot in high school and remained till this day. But the word this guy called me made me feel like a subhuman. It made me feel less than human. It made me feel like I was pond scum, lower than pond scum. And it enraged me. When you, like, if you've ever been in love, or they say there's a fine line between love and hate. It's part of that thing. The more personal something is, the more cutting it is, the more of a negative reaction it'll bring out of you. And so, I mean, it cut me so much and hurt me so much that the pain would be replaced sometimes really quickly, or sometimes later in the day, but would be replaced with this rage and this hatred. And I really wanted to kill that guy for a I don't know how short a period of time it was, but it was for a little while. But it did affect the way that I was at school. I actually started trying to leave luckily the way band class worked is that we were usually done before the bell rang, and you could have your stuff ready. You could actually leave a little early. I mean, that's one of the things I loved about band. It provided some freedom in school that wasn't so structured like every other class was. And so I would actually be out the door and go. That's what I started doing. I'd be out the door and leaving ahead of the bell so that I could take a longer route around to get to class so I could intentionally avoid this guy. But sometimes it didn't work. Sometimes I would still run into this guy and things would happen. So it did change my life, and I took the avoid confrontation route is the route that I took. But I can sit here and tell you honestly that I had serious I don't know if fantasies is the right word. Maybe it is. I did have times where I would just sit and think of grabbing my shotgun or my dad's shotgun. My dad was a police officer, sheriff's deputy. There was always a handgun around. I had thoughts on more than one occasion. I wouldn't say more than 10. It was probably less than 10 times that I seriously had thoughts and contemplated it. But I really did envision, like you know how you play things out in your mind and it seems like it would be so satisfying. Like I really did play it out in my mind several times, how satisfying it would be to take that route one day on purpose and run into that guy and have him say those things to me and me pull a gun out of my book bag or out of my waistband and just open up on him. Like I did literally picture that in my head. I think there are a few things, like I said, probably saved me and him and things from going bad. And again, part of that was that I didn't have a lot of friends, but they were good friends. I had reasonable self-esteem. Even though I wasn't happy with my weight, I wasn't happy with how I looked, I still had a reasonable amount of self-esteem, which came from, I think, having good friends. It came from my family. It came from my environment, other environment. And so it would allow me, I think it would allow me to recover reasonably quickly from that agonizing hurt. Like it would hurt me, but I think just given a little bit of time, I could recover from it. And then the other thing I think saved me is that period of time in my life didn't last very long. And I've tried to think back and remember. I don't know if it just for some reason stopped happening or if it started happening late in the school year, so it just didn't last long. And then, school was out. And then, of course, when next year rolled around, the classes are different, times are different. I remember that guy graduated, I think, that year. So he was never back. So I just had to tolerate it for that short period of time. Had that been a continual thing, I had it carried on an entire school year, I don't know. I wonder. I've tried to think about it and wonder, would that have continued to build inside me to the point I couldn't control it? Would I have become one of these people? I can tell you this. If it happened, it was just brief, just very brief, the thoughts of taking my own life. And I know that happens, and I know that's a part of bullying. I guess just the way my brain is hardwired, that wasn't so prominent to me. What was prominent in my brain was taking action against him. But I can tell you this, I think about that guy a lot, and it's been a long time since I graduated, but I can tell you this, I have thoughts of that guy and what he's doing now will pop into my head. It's not something I obsess over, but I'm guessing probably several times a year, maybe 2 or 3 times a year, I will wonder where that guy's at, or I will think of his name, and I'll just wonder where he's at. Bullying is something that it's hard for some people to understand. Other people understand it perfectly, but I don't think anybody really knows a solution or an answer to it. I don't know that there is one. I think you just really need good, strong parents. You need good, strong friends. You need to have some reasons to feel good about yourself. And I wonder about these kids, because I would never blame anybody. I'd never blame their parents. I would never blame their friends. People, even when they do poorly, are generally trying to do the best they can in the parenting department. Now, I know that isn't always the case, but I think generally speaking it is. I think it's something that, might have to come from within, but needs to be reinforced. Like my thing was I was really smart and I was really good at music. I started playing messing around with the piano when I was 3, 4, or 5. I was very young. Then I started picking up the bass guitar and the guitar, and then I got in a band and played saxophone a while, and then trombones, and started fiddling around with drums and songwriting. I was writing songs, and so I had a great sense of self-esteem from my musical ability because it was something that I was better at than most people. I was by no means a musical genius, but I was better at it than most people, and a lot of people enjoyed hearing me play and sing. So that's a really strong positive reinforcement that I had. And the other thing that I had is that I was really smart. I just recently did the Mensa test. I did it last year, where I passed and I was accepted. And you have to be in the top 2% of the population to be offered an invitation to join Mensa, which I was. The IQ wasn't enormous. It was a super huge IQ, but it was I don't even know right off. The papers are somewhere, but I think 127 or something was the estimate. So, I mean, it's not Einstein genius or anything, but just, I think they call it gifted is what they call it. But what that allowed me to do was school was very easy for me. Matter of fact, school was almost too boring for me. There was a debate when I was younger, I think first grade, about moving me up a grade. One, because my age range fell in the halfway point. When I was born, if you're born in that halfway point, you're either going to be half a click younger than everybody in your class, or you're going to be a half a year older. And I was a half a year older. So I wasn't a full year, but that combined with my advanced intelligence made school really easy for me, which caused me to be bored a lot, which caused me to want to get into trouble. Not serious trouble, but just goofing around or whatever. I was just bored. So I think that gave me a level of confidence, and I think those two things was enough positive to overcome the negative. And so I think that's probably the answer. I'm just not sure how you get it. Because, again, mine came from within, but it was reinforced. I don't think my parents could have given me I don't think there's any way my parents could have given me confidence. It was just, I was able to pick up instruments reasonably quickly. I was reasonably good at playing them. And the confidence came from that. And then it was reinforced from my parents and people who knew me. And then my, level of intelligence was just something that I had, and I did recognize it. So my parents weren't able to give that to me in any kind of a way that, you could just say, well, here, you just need to make your kids smart. I just had that, but it was reinforced. And I think that I'm probably not in prison today, and I think that guy's alive today mainly because of those three factors. One, that it didn't last a super long stretch of time, and two, that I had a lot of positive stuff to back me up. So, what do I say about bullying? What can be said, I don't know. That's just my experience. I don't think you'll ever eliminate bullying, and I think to some degree, some levels of bullying, and maybe bullying isn't the right word, but you have to, your formative years when you're in school and then high school is when you get toughened up for the real world. And a lot of embarrassing things happen, and a lot of things that make you cringe happens, and kids will pick on you, and kids will make fun of you, and I think that that's a valuable part of life. I don't think you eliminate those things. I think only once it becomes over the line is then it is something that's where somebody needs to intervene. I don't have the answers, but I can tell you this: I do feel for people in that situation.
This is the Brett Mason Show. Hey, hey, hey!
Hey, let me tell you about my friend Courtney over at Toyota Dothan. The rental car department is just fabulous. Look, me and my mom, we make a lot of trips to UAB. We can actually rent a car from over there and pay for the gas and be in a new car with warranty and that's nice. Not put the miles on our personal vehicles. All of that for about the same price as we could just drive our own vehicles and put gas in them. Now, a big part of that is because the vehicles me and my mom drive. She drives this big honking extended cab dually thing. It just doesn't get good gas mileage. And I drive a big honking Lincoln that needs a tune-up that gets horrible gas mileage. So that's part of the reason. But the other part of the reason is their rates and their prices are really low. You compare them to everybody else, and you're getting a Toyota, Camry, Avalons, trucks, SUVs or whatever. And then their fees and associated things like that some of the other places really gouge you on. Toyota doesn't. So check them out. They're right there on the circle, toyotaofdothan.com. Check out the rental section or email my friend Courtney. Courtney at toyotaofdothan.com. Courtney at toyotaofdothan.com.
This is the Brett Mason Show. Hey, hey, hey.
I'm ending this podcast talking about one thing, and I don't have a ton of things to say about it. But do you ever have phrases that just irk you? Just, I have one that drives me crazy now. I've started talking to a person who I won't name. And they're obsessed with at the end of the day. I hate the phrase at the end of the day. And this person can use it in any kind of conversation. It's crazy. They can be like, well, we were going to go out and have lunch today at the Blue Plate and, have some fried pork chops and greens. But at the end of the day, we decided it'd probably be better if we went to such and such a restaurant and had salad. Well, no, that didn't happen at the end of the day. It happened right then at lunch. That's not only does that phrase annoy the heck out of me, you're using it wrong. If you were thinking about going to Blue Plate and then you decided, no, I'm going to go to a different restaurant, that didn't happen at the end of the day. That happened right then at lunch. That didn't happen at the end of the day. Or somebody will say, yeah, we're for a long time we were thinking about investing in a new car. And, we've had the car we've got for 6 years now, and maybe it's time to get a new one with a warranty on it. But at the end of the day, financially, it just didn't make a lot of sense for us. Well, again, what time of day it was has nothing to do with that decision. It was a financial decision you made. It was based on X's and Y's and numbers and do the world a favor. Don't say at the end of the day. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Thanks for sharing it. Download the app from the Android marketplace. Just look for Brett Mason Show, the Brett Mason Show. It should be on the iPhone App Store soon. Hopefully we're getting approval on that soon. And check out all the links to subscribe to the podcast on the website, brett-mason.com. That's Brett, B-R-E-T-T Mason, M-A-S-O-N.com. Thanks. Peace.
This is the Brett Mason Show. Hey, hey, hey. My name is Brett. This is my show. This is my show. Hey, hey, hey.